Hi guys and girls, I'm Karel from the Story Department. If you are a filmmaker, a writer, director, producer or editor, I highly recommend you watch this video and every other video I've got on the topic of point of view. Even if you're a novelist, I'm pretty confident that you'll find some value. What I'm teaching in this series, you won't find anywhere else. This is unique. I'm also illustrating this with videos, and upon your request I have, where I could, added the screenplay snippets to the video clips. All right, let's dive into it. What I'm teaching you in these videos is new. It is exclusive, it's unique. It doesn't come from any books. It's purely from my own experience, from my own study, from watching films, analyzing films, and reading scripts from clients and students and drawing conclusions from what works and what doesn't work. That means, or it doesn't mean, that this is all gospel. So you should not take everything for granted. I want you to consider it carefully and compare it to your own experience and test what I'm saying here. And when you do those tests, make sure that you look at films that work, because I'm only teaching you aspects that will help you writing scripts that are more easily sellable, that will reach a larger audience. I'm not teaching you to write great art. Art is about you. I cannot teach you that. And the next film that I'm going to take a clip from, ironically, is what I consider art. It was not a commercial success. I still love the film and we can use it as an example. I'm talking about Syriana, the Stephen Gaghan written and directed film with tons of big actors. We have George Clooney, we have Matt Damon, and a lot of shifting points of view. We go from one character to the next to the next. Now, why are we going to show this clip? After last video, one of you responded in the context of omniscient point of view. It seemed from the title of the clip that I didn't believe there was such a thing as omniscient point of view. Now, my point was really that you should not try to achieve point of view. You should not aspire to do omniscient point of view, because in my view it doesn't work. It does occur occasionally in films, and some moments have an omniscient flavor, and I'm going to show you such an example. In Syriana, we have certain news items, television news items, that feel like as if they have an omniscient point of view. Aerial views, they seem to have that God's eye perspective. In the clip you're going to watch, we cut and then shift from the point of view of Matt Damon's character to some sort of omniscient point of view, to only then hone in on a worker and his father. So it's really more of a transition. It's not really an omniscient point of view. And when you shift from one character to the next, I don't believe that's omniscient point of view. That's really shifting from one point of view to the next, so we can then identify with those individual characters. And we do. I think we do in Syriana, only that your engagement with these characters is interrupted, is abruptly shifted from one to the next, and that means that you don't get the same depth of engagement as Robert McKee said in the quote that I gave in the introduction to Point of View. Okay, enough talk. Let's have a look at that very short clip from Syriana, where we shift from Matt Damon's character's point of view briefly to omniscient, and then go to the next character.
That's fine. You're a good song leader, Mr. Rockefeller.
Tom, Mitchell! Tom, Mitchell!
In this video, we're not going to focus on omniscient point of view anymore. We're going to talk about shifting point of view. You saw an example. In the next example, again with Matt Damon from the film The Adjustment Bureau, we see a clip in which the point of view shifts for the very first time in the film. The Adjustment Bureau is a film that's fairly rigidly told from the perspective of Matt Damon's character. At the midpoint reversal, which is also the Sex at 60 scene, the two main characters have just made love. And then we shift to Emily Blunt's character, which is quite unexpected. And it's the only point in the story where that happens. Now, most interestingly, if you compare the film with the screenplay, you'll see that in the screenplay, Matt Damon is still in the scene. Now, to achieve greater effect, he's been taken out of it. So we have a momentary dramatic irony, if you wish. We stay with Emily Blunt, so we shift out of the main character's perspective, are with Emily Blunt briefly because we want to get some information that she has and that Matt Damon's character does not have. Let's have a quick look at what that looks like, and you can rewind and then compare with the screenplay.
David? David? Hello? Hey. What are you doing? Why are you calling? No, because I was sleeping. No.
So if you had the time to compare the clip with the screenplay, you saw that in the script, the point of view was consistently still with Matt Damon's character. So the writer tried to achieve that single point of view throughout the screenplay, but the finished screenplay, the shooting script, then provided for a shift to Emily Blunt's character to create greater dramatic irony that makes that we share information with her that the main character doesn't know until a minute later. So you have some tension, some greater tension for a short period of time. Now, in the Oscar-winning screenplay for the 1984 film A Room with a View, Ruth Projapvala does something really interesting. The book that film was based on by Ian Forster, A Room with a View, was told with a shifting perspective. And you can do that. In a novel, it's much easier to shift points of view without being punished. In cinema, you lose that engagement with the characters when you ask your audience to go from one to the next and then integrate yourself with that character. Ruth Projapvala knew this, and she decided to tell the screenplay rigidly from the perspective of Lucy Honeychurch. Here's a scene with Helen Bonham Carter and Daniel Day-Lewis as Cecil Vase and Lucy Honeychurch, where you see a very short moment in which he wants to kiss her, but we see this from her perspective. It has some sort of a comedic, bittersweet feel to it. So it is really, the scene is really looked at from her perspective, and that provides for comedy because you cannot be in the point of view of the character who does the comedic action. You need to look at it from another perspective, and we are throughout the whole movie in the POV of Lucy Honeychurch, so it works as comedy. If you were to read this particular passage in the novel, it would be pretty tragic.
Up to now, I have never kissed you.
No, you haven't.
May I now?
Well, of course you may, Cecil. You might before. I can't run at you, you know. Sorry.
That was awkward. It was awkward for both, but it was tragic for Cecil, while it was mildly comedic for Lucy. And because, and I'm going to spoil the story now, or else you need to fast forward or just stop watching, because she is ultimately going to break the relationship with this character, she's kind of preparing. We understand that there is something else on her mind. She's now looking at this relationship with a somewhat critical perspective. Let's move on to an example where shifting point of view didn't work so well in my view. I do believe that sometimes it's really powerful, but in other cases you should not really shift. We're going to look at a very brief clip from Animal Kingdom, an Australian film with Joel Edgerton and Ben Mendelsohn, both who you'll see in the clip that's coming. Now, this clip is what we call the call to adventure, or the inciting incident in the film. It is the event that kicks off the main action. Now, the main character in this film is Jay. We do not see Jay in this scene. So we are shifting out of his point of view, but we're doing this at a critical juncture in the story. And I strongly believe that to make an audience fully engage with a character and experience their experience, or maximize the emotional potential, you put the main character in the scene when this happens. You do not shift to another character, not at the inciting incident, not at the end of Act 1. I would argue that you can't have an end of Act 1 without the main character, nor the midpoint reversal. So these really important climactic moments, they really require our main character in the scene and on the screen, so they can witness what is going on, and we can be there when they feel the emotion, and the emotion is the strongest when they are there. And you can argue that, well, some stories then you can't tell, and that's right. And sometimes you weigh up whether you want to compromise your original story or you want to stick to the original. And it really depends on what other elements are there. If you have a very commercial proposition and you have a big cast, you may circumvent the issue of having this reduced engagement from the audience. In Sicario, also with Emily Blunt, for instance, we shift to Benicio del Toro's character in the third act, which is very unusual and not something I would recommend. But I also believe there is no other way of telling that particular story. I do believe Sicario worked. A lot of people disagree with me. Commercially, it was not a huge success, but Taylor Sheridan is still working and is still doing more and more successful films, I believe. And I need to check the numbers. Let me know in the comments if you have done that. So the bottom line here is that you stay with your main character, you keep him in the scene and on the screen. That's how you establish the basics of point of view. And in the clip you're going to see right now, that didn't happen. So it's a strong scene. At the end, I've cut out the bloody part, but this is a scene where our main character ideally should have been present.
I'll get you started. I'll set you an account up and you're away.
Yeah, I don't have a computer.
Don't need a computer.
Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. What?
Well, either do I, is what I'm saying. But every day's a new day, is what I'm also saying.
Fuck that's supposed to mean?
Ah, shit, guys, you just missed him.
That's all right. I like you better.
So the main character is not witnessing the inciting incident in Animal Kingdom. He receives the news right after this scene. Now that's kind of like Jaws, right? Because the sheriff doesn't witness the killing of the swimmer at the beginning of the story. Now the difference is that happened at the beginning of the story and there was really no one present, no one who's involved in the main story. Whereas here in Animal Kingdom, we have the antagonist and Joel Edgerton's character in that scene, but not the main character. And then the main character finds out right after. I would argue that it would have been a lot stronger if our lead had witnessed that. All right, I still had about 3 big clips for you, and fantastic clips that demonstrate the notion of dramatic irony and how sometimes you have to shift out of the point of view of your character to get certain information across, and you do that at very particular points in your story. But I'm going to do that in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And I recommend maybe watch it again, watch the clips again, compare the scripts. It's not always completely parallel. And if you did like it, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Maybe give us a comment and maybe give us some examples of films that you know where we have successful shifts of point of view or not so successful shifts. And then I'll be back in the next video with those 3 following clips where I demonstrate the use of shifting perspective, shifting point of view for dramatic irony. Thanks for watching and see you next time.